Mr. Mayor, these are very simple items. We just have to let the province know that we are ready to show humanitarian aid to refugees from Syria. The second one is to talk about maybe having a picnic.
I don't have an issue with just having it out there for discussion, and if it's at this type of a meeting, we can get community input back. So I don't have an issue with them having it to the agenda.
All in favor of the amended agenda? All opposed? Myself. The agenda is adopted as presented. The amended agenda. So carried. Our first items are the presentations from staff and corporate services. The subject matter is the Volunteer Appreciation Night call for nominations, policy number 204. And the recommendation is that council provides notice to the public calling for nominations from the public for exceptional volunteer service in the city of Grand Forks in accordance with council policy number 204 at the September 14th regular meeting. May I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Hammond. Any discussion? All in favor? Councillor.
Can I direct this to perhaps our corporate officer? Will these nominations and awards be presented in conjunction with chambers when they do their AGM? Like I think the city partnered with the Chamber of Futures,
Community futures.
Community Futures, Regional Chamber, did the Business of the Year awards. And
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that is the plan again this year. I believe it's the 15th of October. The Deputy Corporate Officer is putting that together, and so the 15th of October is this is the second time that we've done this now with in conjunction with the Community Futures.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion? So carried. Our next item are the monthly highlight reports from department managers. And the subject matter is staff requests for council to receive the monthly activity reports from the department managers. Will the department managers be doing a presentation?
Mr. Mayor, if there's any particular item that council had a question or perhaps the public had a question on it, they could ask that at that time. Otherwise, we would not be going over the point by point, but if there's something specific that ask a question on.
So the motion is that committee receives the monthly activity reports from our building and bylaws, from our chief financial officer, from corporate services, development, engineering, fire chief, and manager of operations.
I have a question.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, under corporate and legislative services, marketing material for Venture Connect publications. I don't remember what that is. And another thing, conference calls and meetings with potential development organizations. Yeah, I'm a little confused about what's Venture Connect. I don't remember what that is.
Perhaps the deputy and / acting corporate officer can answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Venture Connect is a publication that is put out by Community Futures, and the city often submits some information. Sometimes it's on the city, sometimes it's on specific properties that are for sale.
that's part of the development.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I just remember.
Yeah. And the conference calls and meetings with potential development organizations. So on occasion, we get phone calls from organizations or businesses, companies that are looking for locations for their clients. So for businesses, one, for example, could be something like a bargain shop, or so they have large clients that look at smaller communities around the province, and then this organization will come and sort of vet potential locations. So on occasion, we will sit down and have a quick meeting with them. We also had a call with a Chinese investor who again was vetting for a larger client.
I always say when I read development organizations, I think about non-government organizations, NGOs.
The private.
No, they're for profit.
Yeah.
Well, that's not an NGO.
No.
Okay, thank you, that's good. Thank you.
So may I have a motion to receive the monthly activity reports? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Ross, any discussion? Later in the second row.
Donna Seminoff, under Chief Financial Officer, I see it says interviewing for casual admin pool, and I saw the press release about cutting down on full-time FTE in the asset management plan. Is this connected to that at all? Casual staff versus full-time?
Or corporate officer.
Mr. Mayor, this is basically just to keep the casual admin. We have a pool, and a lot of times the pool will overturn. It is not affecting any of the regular full-time jobs. It is just on the casual day-to-day basis when it's required to have some of these. And it's when you have a regular employee that all of a sudden has to go for medical or some different thing like that, and then we have a pool of people that will take on that sporadic basis.
So as the word deems casual as a fill-in.
Exactly.
Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Seminoff.
On the last page, could the public be told which companies have submitted an RFP and also an EOI?
Or at least,
Is that for the manager of operations report?
Yes, thanks.
Mr. Reed, would you comment on that?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, was that the last two?
No, the ones for the meter installations?
Does it get interested in the inside?
So on the pit meter installations, we did receive two proposals for that. And then the expression of the interest that we put in the paper, we had three plumbers that have responded to that. But we're just going over the criteria in the budget, and nothing's been awarded yet.
Ms. Seminoff.
In the past, the public has been aware of which companies applied. Are you able to tell us that now?
Only after, I think it's been awarded.
In the past, it was told to us the last time.
Mr. Reed, you have an answer for that?
Mr. Mayor, if you would like, I would tell you who has put in a proposal to both of these.
Would that not normally be premature until it's finalized?
I think that it's fine. I know that the manager of operations hasn't awarded those yet, but he could speak to the proponents who have put their bids in and expressions.
Go ahead, Mr. Reed.
So for the pit meter installations, we had RBC Construction and Boundary Excavating put in proposals. And for the expression of interest, we had, I'm not 100% sure the business names, but we had Mainstream Mechanical, I believe Danby Plumbing, and Mr. Bob Kendall. I'm not sure his company name, but
Thank you.
Thanks.
All in favor of the motion? So carried. Move on to our proposed bylaws for discussion. For our corporate officer, the recommendation is, or the subject matter is reintroduction of the current City of Grand Forks bylaw, number 1999-2014, for various procedures for the conduct of local government elections and other voting and election timeline information. Recommendation is the committee of the whole recommends to council to determine that the current city bylaw number 1999-2014 for the conduct of local government elections remain in place for the upcoming local government by-election, and refer the matter to the October 13th regular meeting for consideration. Be it further resolved that council receive and discuss for information purpose the election timeline with regards to the by-election. We have a motion, Councilor Thompson. A second. Councilor Crog, discussion. All in favor? So carried. Our Chief Financial Officer, the 2016 Annual Permissive Tax Exemption Bylaw is the subject matter, and the recommendation the Committee of the Whole recommends the Council give the first three readings to the bylaw 2018-2016 Permissive Tax Exemption at the October 13, 2015 regular meeting. May I have a motion? Councilor Thompson. Councilor Hammond. Councilor Thompson.
Okay, I have a couple of questions as it relates to this particular bylaw. And in particular, the permissive exemptions. The property taxes exempted, are they municipal taxes only? That 29,000?
Where's the
Yes, that's,
Yes, that's the municipal portion only, 29,000.
And the next question I have is, what does that equate to as it relates to a percentage of a tax increase, the tax levies?
So Mayor Conrad, that equates to 0.98% of municipal tax portion. We collected just over $3 million, and this is approximately $30,000 of exemption.
So it's less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
So unless there are any other questions or debate, may I have a motion? All in favor?
Well,
Here's, okay, Councilor Hammond.
So between the 9 churches that are tax exempt, and that's just the portion of the land that the actual church sits on?
No, the actual footprint that the church sits on is statutorily exempt.
Right, okay.
So the city exempts the land around the footprint of the church.
Right, so out of all those 9 or 10 structures and buildings, if they were all to pay tax on the land surrounding their properties, our benefit would only be in the tune of $1,700.
That's correct.
$1,783
That's
for
correct.
9 properties.
For the municipal portion.
So it doesn't sound like each of their taxes is very high to begin with on the land portion.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So is it the same rate as residential if you were to tax that $1,700 that's now permissive exemption? If it were taxed and we received that $1,700, is it taxed at the same rate as residential or is it a different rate?
It's a different rate.
Okay.
They're usually nonprofit class E.
And right now we're just,
Some portions are class 1, but minor portions, if there are any manses or rectories on them,
but they're taxed.
they would be.
we've just waived all the taxes at this one. We're not taxing them at all.
For any in the land surroundings.
Yeah.
Councilor Thompson.
But we are taxing for their rectories, we are taxing for their halls, like Catholic Church Hall.
yes, and some parking lots.
And we tax off the
Yes, we're only exempting the land.
church and the land on which it's.
The land around it. The land on which it sits is statutory exemption. We're permissively exempting the land around it.
Okay.
Which is a parking lot.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, no. I can bring back other information for when we do the first 3 readings on exactly pictures of exactly what we're exempting. There are pictures at the back of the bylaw, exactly the pieces of land that are being exempted.
This is an item that's going to be discussed on October 13th.
I know, but I just want some clarification. The Anglican Church, is that the meets and bounds description of what's there now? Or is that the old church that was burned?
That would be what's there now. And I'm gonna have to check that too.
Okay, yeah, I just,
Anglican?
I don't know when that, I was looking for the date on that, and I couldn't see the date when it was. But my concern on this is that we're scrambling for money. And I don't like to be the Grinch that stole Christmas, but some of these organizations that we are exempting or that have asked for permissive exemption, do they provide us with a financial statement in support of their request?
We haven't been requiring that. Some do provide it with their application, but we haven't been requiring it in the past.
Because I think that in order to make an informed decision, I mean, we're talking $30,000 here. It's just under a % increase in taxes. And, you know, perhaps that could be used to fund something that's more beneficial to the community at large. Some of our capital could be to offset. So I would recommend that we request a financial statement from each of these organizations that would show their need for permissive exemption.
Are you making a motion today?
Well, there is a motion on
There
the
is on
floor,
the
but
table right now.
our CEO.
Our CEO.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that part of the process as well for the tax exemption is that these organizations individually put in applications. And I believe on that application, it asks for financial statements. I think my past practice and I can be involved in that. Because when the actual tax exemption comes, there should be some financial statements that would be attached to that bylaw when council's considering it.
And at that point, on the October 13th, we could always send it back to staff for more information if it's not sufficient before we pass the bylaw.
If we ask staff to do it now, then we can discuss it at the 13th meeting.
Is that your request?
That's my request.
And Mr. Mayor, there is a timeline requirement on that legislatively. It has to be adopted by the end of October in order for the permissive tax exemption to go into the BC assessment.
So noted. Councillor Hammond.
So I noticed as well, the Grand Forks Masonic building on Market, if that were to be taxed, it would be $387. And so am I to assume that that is at a different tax rate than commercial tax rate, the commercial building?
Our CFO.
Mayor Kyle, the Masonic building's being is a class 8 tax rate.
Councillor Hammond.
The Grand Forks Curling Club, is that shared partially with the RDKB?
Again, to our CFO, Councillor Cronin.
Yeah, the three stakeholders, Christina Lake, Grand Forks, and Area D.
So do we actually own the land at the rec center in Sonoma?
The rec center land, I believe, is on the
We must own the land currently. We've got taxes that we're exempting,
yeah, I would have to check on that, I can't remember.
because that's a huge amount.
Yes.
Wondering if they get shared in with Area D and C.
Good questions.
Yes.
Councillor
Yeah,
Thompson.
most of the three funders and the organizations.
When the Curling Club, and this is years and years ago, came to the city because they were unable to operate, and the city and the regional district agreed to take it over as a service. That's when the tax exemption, I believe, my memory serves me correctly, came into effect because they were struggling. I don't know what their situation is today, and I believe under the, probably would be the charter, and our CFO can correct me if I'm wrong. If a municipal property is occupied by and being rented by, then it's subject to taxation. Yes.
And that's why they're on the permissive list, through the mayor. Because they would be subject to taxation if they weren't on the permissive list.
Councillor Allen.
So I'm just a little confused because that whole complex with the curling rink, the aquatic center, the hockey arena, is that land not all one parcel?
CFO.
Or what I can see it should.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that some years ago, like about 5 or 6 years ago, that the land is still on city property, but it's transferred to the regional district, and the regional district takes over the services for that. And I believe that and I'm not quite sure if it was lease or what it was. I remember the advertisements going into the paper that actually transferred that into for a regional service.
So do I assume that the RDKB then owned that building, the curling rink building?
No.
So the city owns it? Who actually owns the complex?
Yeah, why?
The regional district owns it, but the curling club occupies it and runs it. And it's not a function of the recreation.
But the renter,
The other facilities are separate.
okay,
So the aquatic center and arena are owned by the RD now, we sold it to,
okay.
right? Curling rink, I don't think so, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's not, it's not in the same agreement.
But
Because we have extra stakeholders.
But
in there
30
that
plus years
contribute.
ago, when the
Yeah.
curling club, the regional, they assumed the mortgage. And so the
Yes.
property was, the building was transferred to the regional district. And the curling club was authorized to operate.
Yeah, as of today, like I'm not sure the ownership of the actual building, but as of today, it's taken over, or not taken over, but run by the curling club. And the city of Grand Forks and Christina Lake and the RD all put money into it. They formed that agreement to pay off the mortgage. And when the mortgage was paid off, they continued with the same requisition to fund it so they could start putting money into reserves, like for the ice plant, and now there's the humidity issues and stuff, so that the three players are still there, but the actual ownership of that, I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to check.
Seems to me these are well-pointed questions that might be directed to staff for answers before October 13th.
Yeah.
Councillor Crowe.
Yeah, I would like to see what Councillor Thompson's suggestion that it is taxpayers' money. And we need to figure out, I would like to see the financial statement to show the need. Because if the need isn't there, why are we exempting them and having other people pay?
Absolutely.
So if we can, even if it was a check mark, that we make sure that if they haven't submitted, submit.
Especially with our financial situation today.
Points well taken. Councillor Ross?
To be a not-for-profit, a legitimate not-for-profit, they have to apply to the federal government to get that status. So in order for them to have the exemption, they need to prove their not-for-profit status. And I think that's a simple way. Do they actually submit their documentation as an NFP when they apply for tax exemption?
Are you talking charitable organization or something different?
No, not-for-profit.
Councillor Ross?
Unless this is just, we're talking semantics here perhaps, but it says here it's under their not-for-profit status. But in order for them to be a legitimate not-for-profit, I mean,
You have to be registered.
you have to be registered as a not-for-profit. So that's my question.
Not for profit doesn't mean they don't make money.
That's right, but it's what they do with the money, and it's how the money is also generated. Is it generated through donors, or is it generated through fundraising to go back into, perhaps improving their infrastructure, like maybe recarpeting the Masonic Lodge so that the Masons are more comfortable when they have their meetings. Like those are not, you can still be a non-for-profit and use your revenue simply for the comfort of your members.
Yeah, and
It's still there's nepotism within these organizations. That's what I'm saying. So, that's my question. Are they registered not-for-profits?
You still have questions that can be
That-
forwarded. Yeah.
info and the other part too is we're asking a resident who doesn't belong to or participate in any of the organizations to pay for it. So we just want to make sure that
It's legit.
that's legit.
But having said that, Mr. Mayor, is just because I don't participate in curling doesn't mean I don't think curling is a really great thing that we have in our community, right? And I don't mind, being part of contributing to something that's fabulous for our community. But I'm more concerned about legitimacy of some of the organizations that are receiving tax exemption.
The gentleman in the back first, and then the lady in the second row.
So just for my clarification, and possibly other people, in order to qualify for, like Les Johnson, taxpayer, no Blake Curley, in order for some organization or entity to qualify for a tax break from the city this way, they have to actually be able to demonstrate that they're a charity under the federal guidelines. Is that what I'm hearing here? Is that correct?
No.
Of course,
No, not a charity.
our CFO's asked. Councillor Thompson, you wish to answer this question?
Not-for-profit is something different than a registered charity. So they're two different entities, and what Councillor Ross was referring to was a not-for-profit.
Okay, so in other words, in order to qualify for a municipal tax exemption, they have to be federally certified to be a non-for-profit. That's,
I would think,
okay, I'm just curious.
that's what I'm asking. I would think that they need to be an actual legitimate non-for-profit. Otherwise, anybody can go forward and say, well, I'm a non-for-profit. Well, I'm a farmer and I'm a non-for-profit.
Well, I feel all these questions should be directed to our acting CEO.
Mr. Mayor, the community charter defines how we have people that come underneath this tax exemption. The ones that we have here are the ones that have been in the bylaw for several years now. And it's under the section 220, 222, 224 of the community charter that determines how we as a municipality can determine who is eligible to be under that permissive tax exemption. So that it outlines in our charter exactly what needs to be done. And so throughout the years, this is how different organizations have been up for permissive tax exemptions.
Thank you. The lady in the second
Good
row.
morning, Councilor Conrad Hamilton. from my own experience for the evangelical churches, I'm not a spokesperson, but the money coming in is voluntary, and Ms. Councillor Ross is correct that some of the money pays for the heating, the lighting, and repairing the doors, but always in the evangelical churches, a significant portion is for the poor and for the poor in this city. Many of the outreaches, and if you have Syrian refugees coming in here, those churches will be among the first to be helping. It's part of our faith that we would help those that are in need. Just commenting on that. So you mentioned October the 13th. Will a representative of the churches involved be allowed to speak to the issue at any time, and when would that be?
Councillor Thompson.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Hamilton. The churches are exempt, legislated by the community charter. So there's no issue with the exemption for those organizations. The questions I've raised relate to the other organizations such as the Curling Club, the Legion, the Masonic Hall. Those are the ones that I'm asking and requesting that we have a financial
So
statement.
I misunderstood.
I think so, yeah.
So sorry about that, folks, just rub that without. They don't need to stand up and say why. Okay, can I just ask, because I was interested in Councillor Hammett's question about the Masonic Hall, because I too noted a differential in the taxes, and I now know it's a Class 8 tax rate, but I don't understand why it's so different. I know it's a Class 8, I've understood that. I just don't quite understand why there's such a big differential in taxes coming in from that organisation.
Class 8 is nonprofit, and the difference in the taxes would be due to the assessed value of the properties.
Thank you.
Councillor Hammond.
I think for clarification though, what's on the agenda is not taxing the actual churches, the land surrounding the churches. So that's where there's $1,700.83, $1,783 in taxes from the 9 combined churches that are getting tax exemptions now for the land surrounding their building.
And that's what's being
That's on here, so you weren't in,
totally
you
wrong.
didn't misunderstand that part is true.
So if they want to.
So there's a possibility that they could be,
asked to do so. If they wanted to address it, what would be the appropriate time or forum to address that if they wanted to?
The next committee of the whole
Okay, thanks.
on October 13th. I believe that's what we have.
But I would think, through you, Your Worship, I would think that if that were a requirement, that a request would be made, and I don't believe council has a concern with the land sitting surrounding the churches at all.
it's on our agenda.
Yes, I know that, but that's not what I'm questioning. I am questioning not the churches or the land on which they sit. I am questioning the other organizations that total the $30,000, just under $30,000 in exemption. Those are the organizations that I think need to provide us with a financial statement and perhaps verification if they are not for profit with the federal government.
But the churches are included in that total.
No, they're not. That's a separate total. The churches are $1,700. The 29,000 plus is strictly those other organizations.
So unless there are any other questions or debate, there's a question on the table. All in favor? So carried. We move on now to our late items. As was done for the amended agenda. Councillor Ross.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, fellow councilors, for accepting these late items. Okay, so there is my late items that I sent on Friday. And if we could just read it, I titled it Alan Kurdi because that is really what has brought the world's attention to the Syrian crisis, although the Syrian crisis has been going on for several years now with skirmishes on the Syrian border between close to Turkey. And then sadly, we had the body of Alan Kurdi wash up on a beach, and it's sad that it comes to this before the world actually pays attention. And I understand that these crises happen all over the world all the time, but this is the greatest refugee crisis since the Second World War. And it's been we've been asked to give it priority in terms of accepting refugees. Other countries have also been asked to give it priority, and they are doing so. I believe Germany has put, I think it's 50,000 that they're going to accept immediately. I think it's even more than that. I'm sorry, I'm not really memorizing numbers at the moment. So Alan Kurdi is the name of the 3-year-old Syrian boy whose dead body was photographed washed up on a beach in Turkey after he drowned with his mother and brother trying to escape to Europe. Last week, Premier Christy Clark pledged $1 million, and I want to say a mere $1 million because that is not a lot of money, to assist the refugees specifically coming from Syria. This fund, and it's only initial fund we hope, will be used to help Syrian refugees and make it easier for people sponsoring them, including money for employers to train refugees. Trauma counseling and a toll-free number will be set up. So this is all going to be the $1 million, so it's not going to go far. And it's to help private sponsors working through, and they will be working through the immigration system, the Canadian immigration system. So we don't have to worry that people are going to get in here without going through the regular agency. The BC government will work with settlement agencies, churches, and community groups to figure out exactly where the money is needed, said the Premier. And I would like to entertain this motion, which I wrote on Friday, and I am willing to have it amended. But basically what I want to do is to send a message to our community and to other communities in BC and to the Premier to say that Grand Forks has a heart, that we are humanitarian. We have humanitarian interests here, and we are able to host a Syrian family if they can get through the immigration process, that we are ready to host a Syrian family, at least one Syrian family. And that could be a mom and a couple of kids. It could be a mom and dad and a couple of kids, we don't know. So my resolution to council is, therefore be it resolved that the city of Grand Forks works with agencies in the city of Grand Forks or within the region to begin the process of sponsoring refugees from the Syrian crisis. And we can just leave it at that. I have a letter already from Seaball, and it came in over the weekend, or maybe I got it on Friday, I can't remember. Other people got it as well, I believe. Do you have a copy of that letter, Sarah? It came from Sheila Doby.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Okay, I can pull it out. Just bear with me here.
That's dated September the 11th.
Do you have the letter?
I do. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Chris.
Mayor?
Please. I don't mind. Thanks for helping with that.
Okay, the letter reads as follows. This week, the BC provincial government pledged funding to assist the sponsorship and settlement of Syrian refugees. I strongly urge the city of Grand Forks to participate in a coordinated effort with community agencies in our region to support refugees from Syria. And when it becomes clear how this support will be instituted through the province, that the city of Grand Forks actively pursues this opportunity. Columbia Basin Alliance for Literacy, CBAL, conducts settlement services with Immigration Canada and supports new Canadians in their integration to our boundary community. We deliver English language instruction, assist with the citizenship process, seek referrals for housing, medical care, employment, and help to make connections to a wide range of services. This is a local program that works closely with other agencies in the community that are dedicated to delivering our vast community services. This is also connected to the regional CBAL program. We are well equipped as a community to support families from other countries to help make this community their new home. We live in an abundant society and are extremely fortunate people. Are extremely fortunate. People from other countries faced with unspeakable conditions deserve to have a chance to make a new life in a place that has such abundance and safety. Our community will be enriched equally. I look forward to hearing that the City of Grand Forks has struck a committee to lead an opportunity to support Syrian refugees in our town, and that a call for interest from community agencies is made to act collectively on this commitment. Sincerely, Sheila Dovey, Community Literacy Coordinator.
Okay, so I'd like to ask the council to entertain the first part of my resolution, that be it resolved that the City of Grand Forks works with agencies in the City of Grand Forks to begin the process of sponsoring refugees from the Syrian crisis. And I'd just like to call that question. Move that motion.
Go ahead and second.
I'll second that.
Councillor Thompson, discussion. Councillor Crog. No, see what's Councillor Hammond.
And some information that we received last week, or just recently, from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. I'm not sure if it's hard to pick out some information sometimes because it comes like with loads and loads. But I just kind of flagged and I pulled it up. They just finished their board meeting. So the Federation of Canadian Municipalities represents all the municipalities across the country. They had a board meeting in Fredericton, and they discussed the Syrian refugee situation. The FCM is ready to play a key role, and that's why this weekend I brought forward an emergency recommendation laying out our plan to help coordinate the response of communities across the country. You didn't? No, I'm reading. Oh, right. In the coming days and weeks, we will establish an FCM task force on refugee settlement to help address the Syrian refugee crisis from a local government perspective. The fact is, local governments are on the front line of helping to resettle refugees and communities across Canada. FCM's task force will play an important part in facilitating the municipal response. FCM is also well positioned to work with our international and local government partners to share ideas, best practices, and strategies to help address this crisis. And while we are positioned to work in partnership with the Canadian government on behalf of our membership to ensure a quick and effective response, we will just doing just that. So I agree with what you're saying, but I think that we already have an organization of government representing local government that's taken on, put a task force together on this. So I think rather than going in different directions.
Councillor Crog.
Okay, I could support the motion. I think we need a couple little amendments in there, which I highlighted in blue. No, I didn't highlight it, there's an extra space. That we work with agencies in the boundary.
Yeah.
And that we CC DRD for support.
Yeah, I think that's great.
And when the FCM gets their act together, this isn't something separate from them. It would probably just, once they figure out what they're gonna do, then we've already said that we're willing to do it, so
Exactly.
we get a heads up, but
Yeah,
it should be boundary.
And it shows them the support, that there are
Yeah.
communities that are already waiting.
So we just communicate that to FCM.
Yeah.
Yeah, and CCFC.
Great, yeah.
But it would
And it's
surprise me to see a special resolution at UBCM on this issue.
I agree.
Yeah.
But
I agree that we should wait until the UBCM and contact the other municipalities, discuss it at the UBCM level, because the City of Grand Forks, without sounding non-humanitarian, is in the business of water, sewer, sidewalks, roads. We are now embarking on a financial restraint situation. This is still gonna incur costs to the citizens. It is nice to be able to be charitable, but higher levels of government are involved at this point, and we should take a step back until such time. That's my view, and I will not support the resolution on that basis. Councillor Ross. And then Councillor Thompson.
Our job is to, manage the assets of the city, but as political representatives, we are also called as human beings to show humanitarian aid to others in need. We have a sign that says open for business. Are we open for just business, or are we open to accept other people into our community? I think waiting to hear from a higher level, this is what Councillor Hammett read was FCM. It's going to happen at community levels. These folks need communities to go to. We need to say as a community here that we are ready to accept families. And it's not going to cost the taxpayers money. There are agencies in place to support these folks. It's not going to come out of taxpayers' money pockets. And making fear-based decisions does not bring us forward as a society or as human beings, that we're afraid that it's going to cost us money. We're afraid of who these people might be. Grand Forks was founded by refugees. The Doukhobors were refugees. They were rejected. They were being killed, and in their own country, they fled. Canada was founded by refugees, be they Irish or Doukhobor. We have Somalian refugees in this country. That is what makes this country rich. Canada is a melting pot of refugees and people seeking a better life. And we are saying through this little discussion that our hearts and our homes are open. And God help us if we have to, we're afraid of our pocketbooks. But this is all I'm saying is let's just let people know before we go to UPCM and wait for somebody to give us permission. I don't need permission to say we are ready to support when it's time to give that support.
With all due respect in response to your comments, Councillor Ross, I still state the fact there's another issue here. With the refugee situation these days, there are many security factors involved. Way more security factors involved. And we inherit these refugees as council making decisions for the citizens of this community. Bear that in mind. Once it's done and it goes sideways, we are responsible to our citizens for having done this.
That's Immigration Canada.
That's all I have to say. Immigration Canada has had people fall through the cracks before. It's not the first time. And these individuals can come in as assumed refugees, but are in fact not. They could be pedophiles, terrorists.
Wow.
I'm just putting it out there.
Wow.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. We're not asking, this resolution isn't asking really the city to expend funds. It is asking that we work with other agencies who would be doing the legwork on this. I appreciate your comments that there could be terrorists included, and that's been suggested. Personally, I would think that Immigration Canada would be doing a better job on vetting people who are coming in. But I would also be interested, with your indulgence, Mr. Mayor, to hear some comments from our gallery on what they think of this particular resolution. If they have any comments that we need to take into consideration before we vote.
Absolutely. The gentleman in the second row.
Hamilton, James Hamilton. I've been following this whole carry-on with ISIS on the internet, and that is large military organizations causing these refugees. They're very cruel people, and they chase people out, they kill people. And so it's the concept of humanitarian aid is definitely needed. For example, there's a man who came from Iran and is locally just come to our community, and I've befriended this man and trying to help him. He's a very personal man and his little daughter, and that's wonderful. However, I've got to support Mr. Mayor in this and Mr. Harper, our Prime Minister. who has pointed out that, for example, none of the, what would you call it, the Middle East countries are willing. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, all of these, for want of a better word, I'll say Muslim countries, Israel and so on, they are not willing to take these refugees. And they have a reason. And this is something which I've researched. Yes, there's a lot of people need a lot of help. However, this military organization is deliberately infiltrating, for example, in Germany, there was so many people have gone in there. 80% of these people are young men of military age. Young men of military age. Well, yeah, maybe we could give them jobs and what have you. They're not integrating very well. The number of homicides has risen slightly. The number of rapes has risen even more. The kind of people that are coming in with these are not, how shall I say, they're slipping in many places, and they are not helping the communities at all. Now, I think Mr. Harper has said it quite well. He said this is not the only solution to this situation. This organization is trying to infiltrate throughout the whole world. And this is part of their stated plan, openly stated. They're trying to infiltrate their people in. And so I would certainly say that we need to, how shall I say, recommend to the government to be very cautious on this, because as Mr. Mayor has said so rightly, once they're here, and this man I'm helping, he's not a terrorist, wonderful, and he needs the help and his little daughter, and that's wonderful. But if we let the wolf in with the lamb, we're going to really regret it. In Germany, if you look at what's going on there, there's people screaming. I won't say what they're screaming, but it's becoming really traumatic, and their whole society is beginning to crumble. That's my comment.
Thank you. The gentleman in the second row.
My name is Donald Ferran. Basically, right now, Germany is accepting 1 million refugees. They're trying to come to an understanding in the EU where the refugees would be apportioned to all the members of the EU. And I remember in the 70s when the question of the Vietnamese refugees arose to both people, there was again the scare that the Viet Cong were going to infiltrate our countries with the boat people, and we should be very careful. We should keep these people at bay, not accept them. I can't recall of one incident in Canada where there's been an issue with the Viet Cong. I think Mr. Chrétien on the weekend said it very clearly. If we accept these people, and there are problem apples, were his words, we could just ship them back. And as for the young men, there are a lot of young men traveling. I can't agree with Mr. Hamilton's percentages. But the reason for that, and this was expressed this morning by Neela Ayad on CBC, is that a lot of these young men are caught between being taken in by ISIS to go fight for ISIS or to go fight for Assad. And like all of us, they're human and they hate war. And we need to understand that for those of us who in 2003, and I'm not one of them, who were all gung-ho for shock and awe when Mr. George Bush decided to go to Baghdad. This is the backside of shock and awe, what we're living now. We, the Western world, created this problem. And, I think most of the people in the community support the idea of taking in refugees. I actually have a cottage at my place now that when this happens, I'm going to be willing to take in a family, my own, in my own land. And I'm not the only person in this community. It's a major crisis. This is one of the biggest environmental crises we're faced with. On the other hand, we have in this community groups like Habitat for Humanity, Whispers of Hope, and many others. And I dare say this council dealt very harshly in their asset management plan with the Habitat for Humanity project on Riverside. I dare say I really look forward to see how you're going to mend the bridges with those community groups. that were backhanded on a project that would have been ideal to receive a Syrian family in Grand Forks. But I totally encourage Mrs. Ross to go ahead with this project. You will have more support for this in the community than people opposing it. Mr. Harper has his word, he has his supporters, but he is not carrying the weight of the country right now on the Syrian refugee issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentleman in the back.
I find it rather ironic that the country that we fought against in the Second World War, that we lambasted as having a history of being monsters in the way they deal with minority groups, is the country that the whole world is seeing standing up and trying to push everybody towards accepting refugees. They're refugees. To be a young man today, and for the last 30, 40 years, going back to Vietnam, the problem you have is that the soldiers of the people who were supposed to be defending you come into your village and they see you are of military age. So you're automatically suspect, and maybe you're taken away to a place like Abu Ghraib or something like that. Or the bad guys come into your village and they say, oh, you should have come, don't come and fight for us. We're going to cut off your hands. We're going to kill you. We're going to kill your family. And then you manage to escape and you get out into the other world. And what do you find? Well, gee, well, you're of military age. You might be a terrorist. So we can't let any of you come in. It's in our country and in the States since 9/11, the terrorist actions that have happened, ISIL-inspired ones in the last couple of years, they haven't been by people who have come from other countries. They've been by people who grew up here, people who watched what was going on and felt like there was something that they needed to do. And yeah, they were persuaded by crap they saw on the internet and people who were able to fill their ears with things and fill their minds with things. But they didn't come here. They weren't imports. They were homegrown.
Yeah.
Maybe we should look in our hearts, like FDR said. The only thing to fear is fear itself. That's all I can say.
That's a problem.
Yeah, I just want to weigh in on this because I love solving the world's problems at our table. But yeah, during the immigration process, you know what? If you did take of those 50,000, 10,000, whatever number, will there be people that have terrorist bent? Sure. Will there be criminals? Most definitely. It's just, that's the way life is. The boat people that came in, were there criminals amongst them? Yes. Did the organized crime in Vancouver from the Vietnamese community increase? Sure it did. But how many of them were not terrorists, were not criminals? So don't, think of it behind rose-colored glasses. There will be bad apples that sneak through into the system, but the good is far outweighed by the small bad. I just hope that the government does its vetting process properly as good as it can without going to the extreme psycho part of it. But yeah, reality will end up with some bad ones, not so much Grand Forks, just overall Canada, but it's something that needs to be done. Correct,
Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, with Councilor Ross's proposed resolution of Grand Forks Works with agency, you to Councilor Ross, I just wanted to find out what the expectations and goals are with staff, given with the legislative and strategic plan initiatives that we're currently pursuing.
Mr. Ross?
Okay, perhaps what we need to do, and if we could just see the amended resolution on the screen, therefore be it resolved that the City of Grand Forks works with the regional district and the boundary and the regional district to be to express, maybe, okay, let me just don't express our
To support the process?
To support the process, yeah, to support the process, that's it. So, I mean, basically, I mean, there, you know, the mayor's right, there's not much we can do as a city, but we can at least support the process and say that we are willing to bring these refugees into our community. But we have to have those organizations in place in order to do the work on the ground. But we're just saying, we're a community that is able to support refugees and the organizations as they go through the process of coming to Canada. And you know, Mr. Ferrand is ready. I've got a cabin on my property. You know, we have places. And so I would like to call that question. No, so it's not works with agencies, support agencies. Therefore, it was also the agencies in the Boundary and Regional District of Kootenay Boundary in the process of sponsoring refugees from the Syrian crisis.
Seeing as it's worded that way, Councillor Ross, yes, I agree, supporting the process. So we are following the proper procedures, and that was my only issue that I had. That we were not, as a community, going right out there and having refugees come here.
Well, that's impossible, so it's a given to.
Well, that's the way it was worded originally.
No, it wasn't, because I always said support the agencies in the process.
But I think this is a solution, or good resolution, that's not going to detract from our take our way staff time.
No, it's not.
But this can certainly be communicated to, you know,
Christy Clark.
the Premier, the UBCM, the FCM, the federal government.
Exactly, and that was my intent originally.
Yeah.
That was the intent I had.
I thought you were afraid of pedophiles.
No, because once it goes to the higher levels, they'll take care of it.
Can only go through the higher levels.
All right, are there any more questions or concerns?
We just called the question.
To our person in the second row, and then that will limit the question.
Thank you. Donna Semenoff here. I think we can all relate that in a time of need, if someone helps us, how it makes a big difference in our life as opposed to not getting help at a time of need. And it totally makes sense that we care about our safety here. And I really love that we're talking about safety of others as well. But the question I say is, are we going to create more of a safe world by helping people in their time of need? Especially if we look at some place like Grand Forks compared to other places, if refugees do come somewhere, somehow I can imagine that Grand Forks would support a couple of families really well and actually help towards building peace due to supporting them well in their time of need. I think most people, when you help them in their time of need, feel indebted and want to give back. But that's something for consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simba. Councillor Hammond.
Maybe I'm being very naive. I just think that it's a Band-Aid situation. It's a very unfortunate situation. I think if there's a way that these countries that are offering help could get together and somehow help fix their country, because they've displaced a whole population. And where are these people? You've got a whole population of people that are now scattered in tons of different countries around the world, And I think that's extremely unfortunate that they've been displaced at all. And the help that I'd like to see happening is at a higher level to fix their situation so that they're not going to be homeless. And I understand the urgency and the need right now, but I think it's a Band-Aid. I think the bigger picture needs to be fixing the core problem.
Absolutely.
To the question, all in favor? So carried.
The other late item, Mr. Mayor, was proposing that we just have a picnic. Pick a date, pick a time, everybody bring up a lunch, and we just have a picnic. We can have an open mic where we thank our firefighters and the other people involved in the effort over the past few weeks, and just come together as a community. It's done on annually. A lot of communities have an annual community picnic, and we can have a mic open where the mayor gives a formal thank you, and that other people can come forward and for 2 minutes and share their experience, and also thank whoever they need to thank in the community for helping us to get through that really scary time. And maybe start as the first of an inaugural annual grand picnic in the city park or Grand Forks at Thanksgiving. I think we have a lot to give thanks for in this community, and that sounds like a positive thing to do. The city council invites the community to a picnic in the park.
Towards you.
Mr. Mayor, just in response to that, again, we're going to be looking at likely some significant staff usage over a long weekend. A suggestion might be that because 5 days later we have a volunteer appreciation evening, that council might want to use that in combination and celebrate firefighters through the volunteer process. So it's a suggestion.
Just to integrate it into it, because my concern by having just a picnic would be, who are we gonna miss?
Yeah.
There are many people involved in this, the EOC, the RDKV, John McLean, on and on, our volunteers, our citizens.
Yeah.
If we miss someone, it'll be a travesty. So I feel a full-page newspaper ad to thank everyone, or everyone we can possibly imagine, and then integrate our level at that get-together. Councilor Crowley.
Yeah, I like the idea and support it. There will be people that can't attend from the EOC or whatever, but the invitation is there.
For the picnic?
For the picnic, right? And I think it's would be an awesome idea.
Councilor Thompson.
I think it's a great idea as well. Having said that, it's gonna be cold weather. And we may wanna have something indoors, and would a potluck be better than a picnic?
It is a potluck.
It is a potluck. It's a picnic. You're going to bring something
To share.
well,
Councilor Ross.
okay, so I forgot about the volunteer appreciation thing, and that might be a good start. But I just think we need to start thinking about maybe having an annual picnic. And the fact that it's a bit chilly is sort of fun too. Everybody gets bundled up and we have a potluck. Once again, fear-based decision-making. I'm not afraid of who we forget. We can't have a picnic to say thank you because, oh my goodness, we might forget somebody. That's fear-based decision-making. I'm not afraid of that. That's what the open mic is for. The people can say, I want to thank this person. I want to thank the EOC. I want to thank the women who prepared lunch. And if people don't personally thank me, I'm not offended by it. It's just like, let's give thanks, even just for where we live and the fact that we survived this, it didn't get worse and we didn't have an evacuation notice. We just had an alert. Let's just think about it. If we don't do it this year, and I don't see how it's going to cost a lot of staff time. We put an invitation in the paper. We put some little posters up at some of the coffee shops and said, there's a picnic in the park and this is the date. Come if you will. I don't see how that's going to be a lot of staff time, really. And we're inviting staff to join us as citizens who live with us in this community. If we want to put it on hold for a year, I'm willing to do it, but I think it's something that we should start having at some stage is these wonderful community get-togethers. But let's do something at the volunteer appreciation evening at least.
Councilor Crowley and Councilor.
Okay, when it comes to the event that we just went through, we're saying we survived it. Well, we are covered with smoke. It was something new for Grand Forks. I've been here, I don't know, almost 30 years and don't remember anything with the Togo fire. So it did affect the whole community. So hopefully it never happens again, but I could see it becoming an annual event. Just a community appreciation. This time would be directed towards all the firefighters and fire departments and volunteer personnel that were involved in it. Every year, Andrea and I go down to Stevensville, Montana, and they have what they call a creamery picnic. It's been going for 100 years. 101 years ago, their creamery caught fire and burnt down. The owner said to the town, if you can rebuild it within a month, I'll put on a picnic for you. Well, it took him 2 or 3 months to rebuild it, but the guy put on the picnic, and that picnic has been going every year for 100 years. It's totally family oriented. It's an incredible thing held in a park. So, like I say, I support the idea of the actual picnic, and if we delay it for a year, it doesn't have that same significance as what we just went through, right? So I always supported the idea of a community gathering outside of like fall fairs and stuff, just a good old fashioned picnic. And I think that now would be the time to do it.
Councillor Hammond.
There might be, coming up soon is National Firefighters Week. It's either in October or November. If it gets too late, of course, you're getting too cold and the weather will be unpredictable, but maybe something could happen during the week, National Firefighters Week. And if you want to, tie it in, because it isn't that far off the mark.
So is council entertaining doing this integrated with the volunteering, or are we now still?
Sure.
So Councillor Ross, are you going to reword your motion? Not having an independent picnic. Councillor Ross?
Do you have any thought? Somebody's.
Well, you know what? I think even if Neil and I are the only ones there, I think that I want to go. I'm going to do it. I mean, it's a long weekend for me too, and I'm hosting people in my house for dinner on Sunday, and I got a lot to do. But you know what? Let's just have a picnic. Why do we have to be against picnics? We're against refugees, and we're against picnics. I mean, wow. I'm going to have a picnic. So
On Monday.
on the Monday.
Yeah.
You want? Oh, well, then that's when everybody has more family. I think it's more like Saturday is less, like mostly people celebrate on Saturday or Sunday and Monday. So I was thinking Saturday, you know, like okay, everybody shows up at noon and they're gone by 2. It's 2 hours on Saturday afternoon. Is that good for you, Neil?
Yeah.
All right. So this Saturday, October 10th, from noon till 2. Bring your lunch and a blanket, and we're gonna have sit around in a circle. We don't need a mic, and we'll just say thank you. And if the mayor can't be there, I'll officiate.
I'll be there.
Awesome. And so that's my motion. I move that on Saturday, October 10th, 2015, between the hours of noon and 2 o'clock, we invite the entire city to a picnic in a park. Bring your lunch and bring a blanket. That's it.
Are we doing potluck or just?
No,
people
just bring your own.
providing themselves?
So we have a second, okay. Councillor Crowe. Any other discussion or debate?
Hi, I think Thanksgiving picnic sounds delightful. So that people weren't let down if it rained, I'd like to know that there was a plan for what happened if the weather was different. You're not accommodating for outside.
Party in the rain.
Bring your own umbrella.
A big canopy. Councillor Ross.
Well, weather permitting, I mean, we don't really have any place where we can go in and have an indoor picnic, and my house isn't big enough. So let's just say weather permitting. At least it shows that we're trying to do something. And can we set up some tarps? I don't know. Is there an undercover picnic area? Is there undercover picnic area? City Park have undercover picnic areas? The campground? Seniors. Could we go into the senior center?
Where do we go with the liability? Okay, where do we go with the liability on this?
Oh golly, somebody
We
might get
would
hurt at the
be,
picnic.
covered with liability under our normal park use, I believe. And it's even less liability if people are bringing their own food and stuff like that, but normal park use. And as for rain, if it rains, I think you should do it anyways, because that's what everybody wanted.
Yeah,
They were
exactly.
praying for rain, and we got rain, so if we're celebrating a thank you, and it's raining, I'm okay with that. I'll bring a couple little tents.
Yeah, and I have a canopy. Okay.
Yeah, unless there's any other questions or concerns, all in favor? We have another question.
Yeah, how, I was thinking in the case of climate chaos, rain or whatever is happening, would it be wise to have an alternate location indoors such as the Gospel Chapel? To say, look, if they were agreeable, I mean, you go to there for no cost, the city has no cost when you vote and so on. So I think it's wise to encourage them to show them how useful they are. So that's a possibility to have an alternative venue if there's a climate chaos.
Thank you.
How do you get everybody in there?
So the question on the table, all in favor? All opposed? Okay. Okay, we have one more late item. Bring it on.
Okay. So my other late item is that I propose that the city of Grand Forks join with other communities within the regional boundary, including Nelson, Salmo, Castlegar, Caslow, Winlaw. There's several communities within our district who have taken on, they call the Voters Challenge. And all it is that we'll just let the community know that we are part of the Voters Challenge, and there is a prize, and I'm not sure what it is for the community, that we can get a higher voter turnout in this federal election than we got last federal election. And those stats come to us on what our voter turnout is based on how many people are registered to vote. And it's just encouraging democracy. And so we were asked, we got an invitation from the organizer here in BC, it's right across BC, and it's called the Voter Challenge. And so I'm just proposing that we, the city of Grand Forks enters into the Voter Challenge for this upcoming federal election.
That's your resolution.
Yeah.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yep.
So carried. We now move on to the question period from the public. Gentleman in the front.
Phil Morrow, Mr. Mayor, I realize that the council has a lot to do and sometimes they have a very difficult time getting around to it. And I decided that the council, that I would make sure that each council member did get around to it.
Around to it?
Around to it. These are handcrafted from Russian olive, which I had to cut down from a tree in my yard when it decided not to grow anymore.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow.
You're welcome.
Sort of semi-insulted.
To the gentleman in front.
My name is intended as an insult.
I love it.
I like it.
Okay. Your worship and esteemed members of the council, my name is Suki Lawrence. I'm the president of KP Local 4728 in Grand Forks. I'm here, the chief shop steward of the same local. Just to let everybody know, we're here on union time, not on staff time, just to be aware. I'm wondering if I can read a letter that we received on Friday of last week to the mayor and to council.
The letter is in regards to.
The letter is in regards to our formal 60-day working notice.
I believe there's a press release already out on that subject. Our acting CAO.
Mr. Mayor, there is a press release that has come out to the public. I believe that it's going to be published in the Gazette. We have started the process with some of the intended pieces that we have to pursue. And one of them was the notification of the 60-day working process that was in accordance with Article 301 of the collective agreement and Section 54 of the Labor Relations Act.
Your worship.
Councillor Thompson.
Is there not a process for the receipt of correspondence? That,
Yes, there is, Your Worship. We know that as per policy and bylaw that things that come into correspondence should be received at a prior time. It is council's consideration that they would receive it. It is council's consideration that they could receive if they wish, or they could choose not to.
I would prefer to have a copy of the correspondence to review.
And this is separate from the media release.
I would request respectfully that your letter be sent through the channel so that it can come on to the next regular meeting agenda.
Okay, so we should forward it to
Yes.
the mayor? Okay.
That's right.
So considering this is question time, may I ask a few questions, Worship? We have a few questions. I'll try to keep it fairly succinct. Was council aware that in our CEO's words, he intended to remove specific titles from the collective bargaining unit for the city of Grand Forks? And is council fully aware of the grievance procedure enacted on a poison municipal workplace?
I believe council has been informed on that with the documentation that was pertinent to us were within the collective agreement.
Well, should those not be directed to our?
But our CEO is discussing this.
Mr. Mayor, with the report that our CAO had submitted to council within in-camera, which was subsequently released, the same report was presented to the union staff the following day. The same report is intended to be released to the public as a presentation at the committee of the whole in October. The other piece that the president of CUPE is suggesting is under in-camera.
Which, can I be clear on which piece that is that's in camera?
The grievance.
The grievance is in camera. Okay. Did council know that the CAO was planning to cut 3 unionized positions and employees despite the terms of the collective agreement?
Yes, Your Worship, council was presented with that report that indicated that there was going to be 3 full-time employees cut from the outside works. Again, under Article 3.01, it has the right for management to be able to discern through economic conditions, technology. There's different areas that allow an organization, as like the municipality within that collective agreement, to have to make some hard decisions. And unfortunately, this was a hard decision that was made through council in order to get the infrastructure back on track, and it was explained in the press release that will be coming in. So it is the right of management to be able to proceed, and it was a direction of council.
Thank you. One last question. Our CUPE, the local, has obviously contacted regional and national, and we've consulted with legal counsel and have been advised that the municipality's actions violate the labor relations code, and the union has filed several grievances already, and that we will be forced to apply to the Labor Relations Board to have the situation addressed directly. Thank you for your time.
The gentleman in the front.
Mr. Mayor, I don't quite understand how the CUPE union could be asking a question from the council and it's the administration that answers. is basically, the question was pretty clear, asking if the counselors understood the ramifications of the data presented, and then it's data presented by the administration at a past meeting. That question is addressed to the council. Did you understand it? And then it's the administration that answers. I'm sorry, I don't understand what the matter at hand is, but I don't quite understand why the council is asked a question and the administration answers.
Under the collective agreement, the union does not address council. We are not in a position to deal with the union directly. That is through human relations or CAO, but not council.
But are you in a position to answer a question of information that was given to you in relation to how you understood it? That's what the question's about. As representatives of the taxpayers.
I thought it was, or were we aware? I don't believe the
Yes.
question was,
Are
did we
aware?
understand it?
The question was, were we
Were we
aware?
aware?
All right.
But if it gets any deeper than that, we do not deal directly with the union as an elected body. Does that answer your question?
What I'm thinking about is the council has a responsibility to look at the potential ramifications. If there's trouble coming and it's going to be between the administration and the workers and so on, CUPE. If there is something that you have the ability to direct the administration, and it would be wise to sort of know what's going on in case that you want to do that, and to make sure in this chess move, it's not going to be something that's going to cost the city a lot of money.
Again, there's no direct communication between council or the elected officials and the union. If there is any discussions amongst the administrative staff, that will be done with council in camera.
In camera, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilor Ross?
All right. When we are made aware, we do discuss it in camera, and we encourage communication happen in a way that's collegial and respectful, and that's as much as we can do. So we are made aware. We discuss it. We can't get involved, but we do encourage collegial, respectful communication and a safe workplace.
Okay. And if there is any subjects that we can advise staff, we do so through a meeting. But the rest is up to staff and administration. The gentleman in the back.
During the last week of August, the whole city was living in possibly the worst air quality conditions in the whole world. And I know that we were all concerned about fire, possibly things burning down. We didn't actually have any fires here in town. We had a health disaster. And I'm curious, because I didn't notice them out there. Did the IHA approach the city? Did the IHA lend any support to the city and give the city any kind of guidance on how to deal with this? Because I never saw them out there, and I'm curious if they stuck up at all.
I would direct that to staff. I would imagine that question should be put to the EOC. They would be probably better informed to answer that question, because they are the head of the operations.
Okay, I understand. The reason I'm asking you is that
For us to
this
comment
is
on
our
that
city.
would be not pertinent.
Pardon me?
I said for us to comment on that would not be pertinent. For us to answer that question, they have a better overview of all of this.
Okay, I understand. I'm not asking whether they approach the EOC though. I'm asking whether they approach the city. That's all.
Not to our awareness. Any other questions from the gallery?
And Mr. Mayor, I just might want to add that I would imagine IHA had some communications, but it would have been through the regional district as they were heading the ELC, and so they would have done the communication that aspect.
The lady in the second row.
Gloria Cook. I think we were advised somehow in the newspapers to use face masks, for example, or restrict our going outdoors to reduce our exposure to the smoke due to whatever health concerns we or others may have had. So I think that was the only thing I remember. That's probably the only thing you can do.
And again, that's why we went through the RDKB problem, through the website. The gentleman in the back again.
just to clarify where I'm coming from, the BC Centers for Disease Control has a guideline document for managers in just this kind of situation, specifically wildfire smoke. And they have a number of things that they point out in there that should be done, like clean air shelters for the community. And the seminar found that in the Colorado's guidance as well. None of that, I didn't hear any of that. Now, whatever they told the RDKB and the EOC, maybe I missed something, but like I said, we had a real health hazard disaster here. It wasn't fire, it was smoke. Possibly the worst in the world for almost 9 days. And I didn't see them. And I know other people they were absent, and that's why I'm asking.
Thank you.
Real quickly.
To the lady in the second row.
Hamilton, thank you. At the upcoming by-election, will you be doing the counting electronically or the old-fashioned way? What's the answer to that?
Ms. Mayor, in the report that I have today, it speaks about the bylaw, and it has two objectives to the voting machines and to the manual. Our recommendation to council is due to the scope. Right now, there's definitely one seat. There's some information that we don't know if there'll be a second seat or if the scope would get any larger. Our recommendation is at this point in time that we would do a manual voting because it would be a lot less. It's less for staff to, like, the poll clerks and everything to count when you have one or two seats, as opposed to a large contingent.
So I'm just putting my penny in. I like the manual way, and it gives jobs locally. And I like earning some money being a student mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions from the gallery?
Mr. Mayor, this one is related to the water meters.
All right, that would be me.
Okay, Madam Mayor. I'm a bit concerned. I wanted to make sure we have clarity. I had presented regarding the engineering reports, and although in general they spoke, about some benefits with water meters, the companies, Not Urban Systems, had clearly said that some other things should be evaluated for Grand Forks before considering the meters. And they said that was the most cost-effective way to address water conservation. Having read that, I'm feeling concerned that those recommendations have not been followed about how to address water the best way and cost-effective. And the latest one was 2010. So I hear that you're trying to be careful regarding finances, but I'm feeling confused and concerned that those recommendations were not followed. And I'm also curious why they weren't. Yes.
Well, first of all, that's from a report from 2010.
Yes.
You're talking to a council that got elected after those decisions were made. So the decision to install the water meters was already enacted in 2014. So other than Councillor Krog, we're all new on this. So I can't tell you why they didn't go and use that report, and I don't know who that report is from. But even if it did save money, I'm not sure at what point we could make changes now or reverse it. The money has been spent. So I don't know if it was a cheaper way to do it. I haven't seen that proposal. And I'm not sure that it would be cheaper to go back and look at that now.
Part of the proposal was to look closer at residential metering via volunteer metering. Residential use. So part of the proposal that they had made in 2010 was to examine residential, make sure that the industry meters, everything was fine, and look at all that information and do a proper audit. For some reason, I think Councillor Yeah, I think you were on council at that time, but for some reason, those things weren't done. And so water was evaluated in the city without what was recommended. And that next report that was done, it even said that they didn't have good information. There was unaccounted for water. And then I saw that the city applied for a water meter grant, which they didn't get 3 times in a row. Maybe I could guess that maybe they were hoping to get that, but they didn't get it, and we dipped into our savings. So when I look at the present, I see we have the data. We can do a proper evaluation, just like they recommended, for what's most cost effective, just double check through their steps. It seemed to me that it would apply to the present. I would make myself available to show you that for your consideration, but I wanted to make sure that you understood that, and I'm feeling concerned about the money, and also because I care about water conservation.
I'm not sure how that could be effective at this point, since there's only about 100 houses, residents left. I believe there's maybe 1 or 200 left to be installed between the indoor installations and filters. So the process is it's like shutting the barn door, the horse is already left. Like it's done.
Well, they
I think it's a
see,
moot point, because we can't go back and reverse what's already been done.
no, and it isn't about reversing, it's about evaluating what's most cost effective in the present regarding water conservation. That's what I'm saying.
I don't recall the 2010 report, and that's 5 years ago, so, that was probably Kerwood Lytle that did that report. And, that was discussed with council, and as I recall, the support at that time and the decision was to proceed with water meters. And, this isn't a new concept for the city. Back in the 90s, late 90s, we were going to the recommendation, and that was Underman Systems' recommendation, was to proceed with water meters. At one point in time, we were going to do a test or a sampling of residential, and the late Brian Porter and I went out. I was the city treasurer at that time. Went out, we had a number of residents in different areas and different households make up, single people, families, large properties, smaller properties. We were going to do and get that information. So that we would have something to base, a more concrete decision on. Regrettably, the then CEO, John Landy, canceled that. And it was unfortunate. And so that we never did get that information. So, and then I retired, and the councils of the day, the discussions continued. The councils, the one I was on, and the previous council, this last council, and the council I'm currently on, all support the water meter as the best way and means of measuring and of charging for the, not for the water, but for the service based on consumption and usage. So that's a little bit of the background, if that helps you at all.
Okay, so we went into stage 2 water restrictions this summer, and I feel that we should have done it weeks, if not months, a couple of months sooner than we did. When we finally went into stage 2, the uproar in the gallery here was really a little appalling. Water restrictions is about water conservation. That's what it's for. And then there was, I was accused of wanting to kill people's gardens, that there was gonna be possible lawsuits against the city because people's gardens were gonna die. It was really based on, this is one of the worst drought years that we've had in history, that people are so upset about the water restrictions. And then the question came from the gallery, well, when are we gonna lift it? When are we gonna go from stage 2 back to stage 1? If I had my way, we would never move from stage 2. Stage 2 would be our watering bylaw. That's how we water our lawns and our gardens and our trees and our shrubs in the city of Grand Forks in perpetuity. We never go back to stage 1. That is called water conservation. And there's ways of doing it. We need to farm differently. We need to garden differently. We need to manage our lawns differently. We need to actually probably eliminate lawn for the most part. So I think that the will of the people, from what I'm gathering, is there's really not a great deal of enthusiasm or buy-in for what I would consider meaningful water conservation, based on what I heard from the gallery. I think there are people in the community who are embracing stage 2. Yeah, they're doing stage 3. They're self-monitoring already. And those are the folks that already have their water meters. What I found appalling and very telling is the people most against water conservation were the folks who are also against water meters. And I really think we need to move into our briefing session. So, this is an old conversation, and is there anything new?
Yes, first of all, for clarity, that report that was referred to by Councillor Thompson was in 1999 by Urban Systems, and yes, they did recommend water meters at that time. It was different technology, different financial situation, and our city was.
Can I interrupt and just ask what the point is?
Yeah.
Well, this is about acting responsibly regarding
but it's done.
conservation. Please, I haven't talked much. That I'm relating to what the councillors have said. Okay, so that report did recommend things. It was a different situation, and that report also said our city was not enforcing their water restrictions, and they shouldn't have them unless they were enforcing them. So I applaud the city that they have taken actions on that, and they saw that as a good water conservation approach, even as far back as 1999. So that's great, and this is what we've done for the first time in our city. As far as the reports that were done by the other 2 companies afterwards, things changed, and they said you need to reevaluate what's best for your city. And they said what to do, what's best for our finances and water conservation. Those things were not done from what I've seen.
Okay, so.
And our city has proceeded. I understand
Okay, I'm gonna
that.
have to cut you off now, because the point is the city did proceed. Previous councils voted, and they made a majority vote, and the work proceeded, and we inherited this, and we're proceeding with it because we have very little left to do, and it's gonna be a lot cheaper for us to carry on with the way things are than to go back and try to connect. So
How do you know that it would be cheaper?
because I know how much money has been spent so far. And to suggest, and it wouldn't be fair to suggest, so this discussion as it is right now, it's, to me, it's not going anywhere because a decision has been made. A decision was made by the previous council and a decision was made by this council. So we can't go back to 1999 or go back to, another generation and go back to other reports. We're working on what was currently available for us and the technology that was available for us.
And we're talking more and more about water conservation than I think previous councils. We are constantly talking about water conservation and water conservation methods.
And then in the reports, it did say our city hadn't been doing much about education regarding water conservation, and it's true that our community is more aware than
So water conservation is
before.
different than the water metering as far as that program. So water conservation and education can go hand in hand, and there can be follow-up education programs and information going out to the public regarding that. Is there any other questions from the gallery? Okay, I'd like to call Mr. Mayor back into the room so you can adjourn.
Councillor.
All right, to the gentleman in the second row.
I just, a quick question, I was curious what this electrical door-to-door patrols to check meters, what's that about? Door-to-door patrols?
It's not a patrol, just a random check of your meters.
Is this talking just reading the meter for how much you paid, or but this patrol seems to indicate
They're
something more than?
Our manager of operations, I'm sure he can explain it better than I'm aware of what it is.
So the door-to-door patrol as mentioned in the operations report is when the electrical department goes and just checks the health of the meter, make sure that the lens is not yellowed and cracked and nothing's been tampered with and everything's accessible and in good shape there.
Okay, thank you.
And they also put in a new seal too, right? Is the seal dated, by the way? I mean, that's that question.
So it's maintenance.
Okay, sorry. Any other questions? This gentleman in the front.
Stephen Howard, QP Local 4728. I'm the shop steward, chief shop steward. I just would ask, please, how are we to move forward with bringing questions forward to council? What would be the best way to have our concerns heard?
Through our administration stuff.
Okay.
It would be channeled through that.
We're finding that quite challenging. Communication lines are not open.
Well, then you have to utilize your means through your collective agreement.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Very good.
Any other questions? May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Councillor Howard. This meeting is adjourned.
I get the impression that